Lamine Yamal might become a superstar. He might become the face of Barcelona for the next decade. He might become the most gifted winger of his generation. He might win major trophies, dominate headlines, and produce moments that people replay for years.
Lamine Yamal, and here he goes, pass one, pass two, chance for Morata.
But he will never, ever be better than Lionel Messi. And that's not because he lacks talent. In fact, talent is the reason this conversation even exists. Because Yamal clearly has it. You don't break into top-level football at his age at a club like Barcelona unless there's something extraordinary about you.
Final with a mesmerizing goal, dropping his shoulder and gliding.
You don't play with that level of confidence, calmness, and imagination unless you're carrying a gift that very few players on earth possess. He's not some media invention. He's not just a trendy name. The ability is obvious. The technique is obvious. The flair is obvious. The potential is obvious. But talent alone is not enough to make someone Messi. And that's the part people forget. Football fans love the idea of the next version of something. The next Ronaldo, the next Zidane, the next Maradona, the next Messi. It's part excitement and part nostalgia. We see a young player do something brilliant, and instead of just appreciating what he is,
Here to Yamal, who lets it run. Oh, that's a great goal! It's Rafinha with an absolute bullet!
we immediately start measuring him against the highest thing we've ever seen. That's what's happening with Lamine Yamal. And to be fair, the comparison is understandable. He's left-footed, he's creative, he plays for Barcelona, he can beat defenders, he looks mature beyond his age, he already has that rare quality some young players never develop: composure. He doesn't look overwhelmed, he doesn't play like someone who's just happy to be there. He looks like he belongs. That is unusual.
Dozier kept the ball, now he sets off and skips away from Mkhitaryan. Oh, that's brilliant!
But the gap between unusual teenage genius and better than Messi is so massive that most people don't actually grasp what they're saying when they make that comparison. Because surpassing Messi is not about becoming world class. It's not about becoming the best winger in the world. It's not about winning a Ballon d'Or. It's not about scoring amazing goals or becoming the poster child of a new generation. It's about overtaking a football standard that may never be matched again. And that's why this conversation matters. Because when people say Yamal could become better than Messi, they're not just complimenting him. They're accidentally minimizing what Messi actually was.
Come for Messi, must score and does.
Messi wasn't just a superstar. He wasn't just a legend. He wasn't simply one of those all-time greats in a list of icons. He was an event, a football event. The kind of player who changes how fans think about what's even possible on a pitch. And that's not a normal thing for a human being to be. So no, this is not disrespect to Lamine Yamal. In a way, it's the opposite. It's an attempt to be fair to both players at once. Fair to Yamal by not placing a ridiculous burden on him before his career has even really started. And fair to Messi by remembering that his level was not just difficult to reach, it may have been impossible. The biggest mistake in this debate is thinking that Yamal is competing with another footballer. He's not. He's competing with history, because Messi is no longer just a player people remember. He's a benchmark people use, a reference point, a standard. He's the answer people reach for when they want to describe impossible balance, impossible control, impossible creativity, impossible productivity, impossible consistency. When fans watch a young player weave through defenders, what do they say? He looks like Messi. When they see a left-footed attacker gliding inside, combining in tight spaces, or manipulating defenders with body feints and close control, who do they mention? Messi. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens when one player becomes bigger than the comparison and starts becoming the language of comparison itself. And that's what Messi became. He didn't just dominate matches, he changed football vocabulary. And even that still undersells what made him different. Because what separated Messi from most legends wasn't just excellence, it was separation. That word matters. Plenty of players are excellent. Plenty of players have incredible peaks. Plenty of players can be called world-class and deserve it. Very few create visible distance between themselves and everyone else while the sport is still full of other greats. Messi did. There were years where he wasn't just the best player in the world, he looked like the best player in the world by such a margin that second place felt like a different category.
Making 600 goals for Barcelona.
That is absurd in football, because football is a team sport. System, coaching, teammates, league strength, tactical fit, injuries, and context are all supposed to narrow the margin, and yet Messi still looked like an outlier among outliers. That is what Yamal would have to match. Not just brilliance, not just greatness, not just fame, but that degree of historical separation. And once you say it that clearly, the claim starts to sound a lot less reasonable. If you want the simplest proof of how absurd the better than Messi standard is, you only need one name: Cristiano Ronaldo. Because Ronaldo is the best possible test case. He's not some talented player who fell short. He's not a what if. He's not a nearly man. He's one of the greatest footballers ever produced. His body, work ethic, mentality, production, longevity, reinvention, and scoring output make him maybe the most complete example of maximizing human athletic potential that football has ever seen. In almost any era, Ronaldo is the best player alive. And yet, in the era he shared with Messi, he often still felt like the second answer. That's not an insult to Ronaldo, that's the ultimate compliment to Messi. Because if a player with Ronaldo's discipline, output, durability, and obsession still could not clearly surpass Messi, what exactly are we expecting from Lamine Yamal?
Into the back of the net. It gets even better for Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's the question people avoid. Because once you bring Ronaldo into the conversation, the scale becomes impossible to ignore. We're no longer talking about whether Yamal can become amazing. He probably can. We're no longer talking about whether he can become historic. He might. We are talking about whether he can exceed a level that even Cristiano Ronaldo could not consistently exceed. That should stop the conversation immediately. But it doesn't, because people love potential. People love youth. People love projection. People love being early on greatness. And that excitement makes them forget how high the mountain already is. Messi did not stand above Ronaldo because Ronaldo lacked greatness. Messi stood above Ronaldo because he blended things in a way almost no player ever has: output and artistry, control and explosiveness, scoring and playmaking, consistency and magic, efficiency and imagination. That blend is what made even another all-time great feel slightly less complete by comparison. That is the bar Yamal would need to clear. And when you put it that way, the gap starts to look less like a challenge and more like a fantasy. The problem with debates like this is that statistics can flatten experience. Stats matter, of course. Goals matter. Assists matter. Trophies matter. Longevity matters. But numbers alone don't explain what it felt like to watch Messi in real time. Because if you watched him long enough, you know there was a feeling to it. The feeling began before the dribble, before the pass, before the shot, before the visible action even unfolded. The moment Messi received the ball, the entire emotional temperature of the game changed. Crowds lifted, defenders tightened, teammates adjusted their movement, opponents backed off half a step or lunged half a second too early. Possession no longer felt ordinary, it felt loaded. And that difference matters, because most stars create surprise. Messi created expectation. With most players, you hope something special might happen. With Messi, you expected danger the instant he got involved. You weren't thinking, can he do something here? You were thinking, how is he going to ruin them this time? That's a different level of authority over a game. And the reason he created that feeling is that defenders didn't just fear his feet, they feared uncertainty. This is one of the most important things to understand about him. Messi forced defenders into doubt. Step too early and he slips by you. Wait too long and he accelerates into the space you just gave him. Protect the inside and he combines around you. Protect the pass and he shoots. Against average players, defenders choose. Against Messi, defenders guess. And once a defense is guessing, it's already compromised. Yamal can create tension. He can create instability. He can make defenders uncomfortable. But Messi lived inside that state. He normalized it. He turned extraordinary pressure into routine. And not for one season, not for one tournament, not for one hot streak, for years. That's the difference between a brilliant young attacker and a football phenomenon. Take the famous Boateng goal. Most people remember it as humiliation. Boateng falls, Messi lifts the finish. The clip becomes a meme, a symbol, a legendary freeze frame. But what made that play so special was not embarrassment, it was control. Messi receives the ball already scanning. He understands the spacing before the duel even begins. Then he uses rhythm, not just speed, to distort the defender's decision window. One subtle shift is enough. Boateng commits early. The play breaks. And once it breaks, Messi remains calm enough to pause. That pause is everything. Most players in that situation rush. The crowd is screaming, the defender is down, adrenaline is surging, and the goalkeeper is waiting. Messi slows down. He turns chaos into a choice, and then he chips. That's not just talent, that's sequence control. That is the ability to manipulate time, balance, and decision-making all at once. And that was not rare for Messi. That was familiar. The Getafe goal tells a similar story in a different way. People compare it to Maradona because of the visual resemblance, but what makes it extraordinary is how surgical it is. Every touch preserves speed while keeping options alive. Every movement forces the next defender into a compromised angle. The run is not random genius, it's organized destruction. That's who Messi was. He didn't improvise chaos, he engineered it. Teams didn't defend Messi the way they defended normal stars. They built plans around him. Double teams, triple collapses, low blocks, aggressive pressing, shadow coverage, rotating midfield support, deliberate fouling, entire managerial weeks spent asking the same question. How do we stop him from deciding the match? And the answer over and over again was that you mostly couldn't. You could maybe limit one version of him, but then another version appeared. Press high and he slips the line, drop deep and he turns and carries. Protect the shot and he becomes the best playmaker on the pitch. Crowd the middle and he drifts wide to create overloads. Mark him tightly and your shape opens elsewhere. That is what separated Messi from many other great attackers. Most elite players are devastating in specific modes. Messi could hurt you in almost all of them. He could score, he could create, he could progress the ball, he could control tempo, he could destroy transitions, he could manipulate the final third, he could do whatever version of the game your defense least wanted to face. That's why he wasn't just hard to stop, he was tactically exhausting. And that's a huge part of why the Yamal comparison is premature. Yamal can become elite in several areas, but becoming nearly impossible to game plan against over multiple tactical eras is a completely different order of greatness. This is where fan emotion usually takes over. Once a teenager looks truly special, people assume the line from there is obvious. Great at 17, world class at 21, legend by 27. But football careers don't move in straight lines. They twist, they stall, they break, they drift. Early stardom is exciting, but it's not proof of anything beyond promise. Injury changes careers. System changes careers. Pressure changes careers. Confidence changes careers. Defenders adapt. Managers adapt. Bodies adapt. Some players lose a little burst and never look the same again. Some lose freedom in their role. Some become too cautious. Some become symbols too early and carry pressure they weren't meant to hold. Football history is full of players who looked like the future and never became the absolute version of that future. That doesn't mean Yamal will fail. It means projection is dangerous. And this is exactly why Messi's career was so abnormal. It wasn't just that he looked brilliant young. It was that the brilliance survived every stage that usually kills trajectories like that. That's not normal. That's one of the main reasons he became Messi. Now move past wonder kids and look at actual superstars. Neymar, Hazard, Mbappe. These are not cautionary tales. These are elite players. Their greatness is real. Their reputations are deserved. And still, none of them reached Messi's full level. Why? Because Messi doesn't leave many weak spots in the all-time argument. If someone has elite dribbling, Messi had elite dribbling. If someone has playmaking, Messi had playmaking. If someone has scoring, Messi had absurd scoring. If someone has longevity, Messi has longevity. If someone has iconic moments, Messi has an endless archive. If someone has aesthetics, Messi has aesthetics. That's the problem. Most great players dominate certain dimensions of football greatness. Messi gathered almost all of them. So when people say Yamal can surpass him, they usually picture the absolute best version of Yamal. What they forget is that he would need to surpass the absolute best version of Messi and the completed career that followed. That's not analysis, that's wishful thinking. People focus on Messi's left foot, his dribbling, his balance, his low center of gravity. All fair, but his brain may have been the most devastating part of the package, because Messi didn't just think quickly, he thought early. That difference is huge. Many of the top players make fast decisions once the ball reaches them. Messi often seemed to know the decision before the ball even arrived. That means his first touch wasn't exploratory, it was executable. He wasn't reacting to the defense in real time the way most players do. He had already scanned, processed, and predicted the likely sequence. That's why he could receive in crowded zones and make impossible situations look simple. Other players enter chaos and solve it. Messi entered chaos with the answer already loaded. That is elite scanning, anticipation, memory, pattern recognition, and composure fused together at the highest level. Yamal can absolutely be a smart footballer. He already is. But being intelligent is not the same as dominating the cognitive side of the sport at Messi's level. That's a separate category of mastery. This is the part people always underrate. Peaks are exciting. Longevity is what decides greatness. It's one thing to be electric for a season. It's another to stay world-class for 5. It's another to remain elite for 10 or more while coaches, analysts, defenders, and entire systems keep trying to solve you. Messi didn't just have a peak. He had phases. The explosive dribbler, the false nine destroyer, the absurd goal machine, the chief creator, the older orchestrator, the international leader. He kept evolving without stopping being central. That's unbelievably rare. And this is where projecting Yamal past him becomes unserious. Because now you're not just predicting talent, you're predicting health, adaptability, emotional resilience, tactical fit, decade-long consistency, major tournament moments, and historical productivity across changing eras. That's too much to assume for anyone. The wrong way to hear this argument is, Yamal is overrated. That's not what I'm saying. He's special, he's real. He has a chance to become one of the defining attackers of his generation. The mistake is not rating him highly. The mistake is making Messi the measurement. Because once that happens, even greatness starts to look like disappointment. One dip in form becomes a crisis. One injury becomes a narrative. One season below impossible standards becomes proof he failed. That's unfair to Yamal. And ironically, it's unfair to Messi too, because it treats his career like something repeatable if the next teenage genius looks sharp enough. It was not repeatable. That's exactly the point. Let's be brutally literal. To surpass Messi in a serious all-time discussion, Yamal would need more than raw talent, more than a hot start, more than a few magical seasons. He would need over a decade, probably closer to 15 years, of elite relevance. He would need to stay mostly healthy. He would need to avoid burnout, overuse, tactical stagnation, pressure collapse, and serious long-term injuries. He would need to remain central as coaches change, systems change, teammates change, and his own body changes. He would need club dominance. He would need international glory. He would need iconic moments in the biggest matches. He would need historic numbers as both scorer and creator. He would need aesthetic genius strong enough to enter football mythology, and even then, he would still be chasing a mountain Messi has already completed. That's the hardest part. He's not chasing an unfinished career, he's chasing a finished one that already feels nearly untouchable. So let's be fair, will Lamine Yamal become a star? Very possibly. Could he become one of the best players in the world? Absolutely. Could he become the best player of his generation? That is on the table. Could he build a career filled with trophies, iconic moments, and real football immortality? Yes, he is that talented. But better than Messi? Nope. Because being better than Messi is not about hype at 17 or 18. It's not about a prettier highlight reel. It's not about resemblance. It's not about having a magical left foot in a Barcelona shirt. It's about surpassing a player who combined artistry, numbers, intelligence, fear factor, adaptability, tactical completeness, and longevity in a way football may never see again. That's not just a high standard. It may be the highest standard the sport has ever produced. So this should not end with disrespect to Yamal. It should end with honesty about Messi. Lamine Yamal may become extraordinary, but Messi was something even bigger than extraordinary. He was the point where brilliance stopped feeling temporary and started feeling permanent. He was the player who made impossible things look stable, the player who made genius look repeatable, the player who turned magic into routine. And that's why Yamal will never be better than Messi. Not because Yamal cannot be great, but because Messi may have already taken football as far as one player can take it.